What's up, guys? I was gonna come on here and just tell you like a step-by-step, but instead I'm gonna tell you the thoughts that were going through my brain when this wonderful client of mine came to visit me today. She has had gray eyebrows for over a decade, so they're gray, however they have not been touched up. So when I look at them, you can see that there's some of her skin tone is actually showing through that gray. To me, it's not overly saturated, but that's just because the way I work. So the reason being is if you use a 1-round liner, you would never get that kind of saturation that I'm getting here like you're seeing with an 8-round shader. So when I work this way, I'm using small circles to get even coverage, followed with like a movement that is very thought out and very precise. So I'm basically going down one row, back up that row, then I'm overlapping and slightly moving forward by half. And you can see here when I wipe, you can literally see it shifting that color as we speak. Now, that's obviously a fresh brow, so it does take some time for this color to settle in. I usually tell my clients that it's going to take about a week for that color to do its job. All of my artists that follow me out there, you guys are always asking, like, what color am I using? So I use LI Pigments. This is LI Pigments Gray Vanish, actually, and it is not diluted. It is 100% pigment. That's what's going to give me the best coverage. So with that said, I chose Gray Vanish over Ungray because Gray Vanish is like a little more softer and a little more not so like stark, I guess. Like, so it's not going to oversaturate. I know a lot of people look at these and they're like, oh my God, but those are really bad, Amber. Yeah, but I'm matching the saturation level that I'm seeing in her skin. So if I was to use Ungray, it wouldn't be bad, but it also would limit my end results. Like, so if I was to go ahead and use Ungray, it would literally automatically throw me into a dark, fully saturated brow. So if I can get away with Gray Vanish by getting a high level of saturation out of that and let it do its job, then I have a little bit more flexibility with color. So with that said, when these brows heal, they'll heal to a brown, probably about a medium brown, maybe not perfect. Sometimes when they heal, you'll still see a little bit of gray peeking through here or there, but not always. I've done these and then not seen any of that gray come back for 5, even 8 to 10 years later. So sometimes it'll go in. I tell my clients, hey, give it that first week. It will do its job. It will shift that color and then come back. So my goal for this session was literally just to color correct the eyebrow shape that you see and then reshape at a future date and lay in that target color. Sometimes, so let me back up a little bit. You can normally it takes 2 full passes to cancel out one bad pass, if that makes sense. So the one bad pass would be what I'm relating to as like the color that gray color that you're seeing in the skin. So I do 2 solid passes of the Gray Vanish, and then that's what you're seeing here. You can see it did its job, it neutralized it, but you can see her shape's not perfect. But instead of doing all that and introducing the target color this session, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to let this color corrector really do its job. Then second session, so after she's fully healed, I'd bring her back 8 weeks later and then go in and do the reshape. Reason being is if we do it right now all in one session, she's actually a case that where we probably could introduce target color for third pass with the way I work, but so you could do it one or two ways. You could go ahead and introduce target color on third pass, but in this case, if we just let that heal, it's a higher chance for that color corrector to actually do its job and work. What's really important, I told you guys I was just going to ramble, but what's really important when doing color corrections is you want to make sure you're not allowing that Gray Vanish to touch virgin skin. So you can see there, I'm keeping it directly on that brow shape. So since we're going to do the reshape at a second session, do not take the Gray Vanish onto that virgin skin. If you do, you will leave a yellow line all the way around that eyebrow. So it's very important not to draw or anything in this session, and just make sure that you're filling in that area that you see that's there currently. So if we were to go ahead and reshape, if we were going to do that second option and add target color for third pass, then you would reshape. I actually just take a Q-tip with some pigment and draw out the brow that way, or you can use a pencil. Just make sure you throw it away one use, obviously, because you'd be using it on open skin. But so we would reshape and then fill in with our new target color across the entire eyebrow. There's not really right or wrong, but like I said, if you do just the target color, then it's really going to allow it to do its job. And then you can introduce, or sorry, if you do just the gray vanish and then introduce target color at a later session, it's really going to allow that gray vanish to do its job. So that is best case scenario. If they were a little lighter, I'd consider these to be about 50 to 60% saturated. That gray that's in her skin, that's how I kind of am looking at it to know how much work needs to be done, is determined by how much gray I'm seeing in the skin. So that's why I decided to just take it a little safer, allow that color corrector to do its job. And because if you go in and introduce target color on anything more saturated than this, it's going to get muddy in the skin and it's not going to give you ideal healed results. So usually the clients are actually pretty happy with seeing their brows like this, because it is a immediate response, but in the skin, and they do think, wow, that really worked. So really pretty cool to see it shifting there. But true test is always seeing what that healed result looks like. And yeah, we'll stay tuned and I'll keep you guys updated. Thank you so much for tagging along. Sorry you hear some sirens in the background. I'm hanging out outside and there's a little background noise, but hopefully you guys found this beneficial. And like I said, stay tuned and I'll update you guys when I have some healed results from this wonderful woman. See you guys later.